Hi everyone, Kim here. I'm really excited because this is something that I've been wanting to do, and Roz has got some in the gold foil. Comes in this little pouch for you. Just pull that apart, and it's inside your little cardboard folder, and the instructions is on the packaging, what you're getting and what you got to do. So I'll just set that aside. So this is the new Aussie Metal Clay's 24 gold foil sheet, and I've already done a little bit, and I'll just show you. So I've done some on my little bird pendant. Here's the stone I'll set after I finish doing it, and I've already added some of this gold here and down here. I'm just going to show you how I've done the process. So, and I'm just going to put some on the wings. So again, you know, I'm not a professional at doing this, and so I'm sure that there are other techniques that you know more than what I do, but these are the things that I have done, and these are some of the tools I've used. I just used the nose round pliers just to hold on to it while I'm attaching it while it's still hot. And obviously I've got a little pair of scissors, and I have actually used a little ball tool. This was really neat, and I liked it because it's got a really polished end on it, and it actually allowed me to get into these little cup areas here on this. Let me just lift that back up so I can just show you a bit closer. So it allowed me to get into these little ball areas, right into it. And so I use that most of the time for that. And I have these optionals, which is the burnishes, the agates, and which is really great. It's really got a smooth surface, so it smooths that really well. I have got a little knife here just to cut some strips however I choose, and again I used this little tool here, and again it was because it had a really fine tip on it, and it worked out really well to get into some of those smaller details. I have a little paintbrush here which I will wet with a little bit of water, and to attach my gold foil. Now I have two colours here. Don't worry about the two colours. That's just how the packaging came. So sometimes you might get the red one, sometimes you might get the yellow one, and none really makes any difference. I have already started to use up these sheets. I will, if I can, very carefully just open this up and show you. I have opened this, so I have already kind of messed it up a little bit, but that's okay. So very careful with it. Try and keep it as closed, and if you're going to cut and move anything, I would just make sure you've got it kept closed. No fans on, nobody kind of running around at this stage. I do have a hot plate. The hot plate is a very old hot plate I've got, and all I do is I actually attach, and I will show you, I actually attach the foil by adding the water. This is actually a piece of the Argentium, so this is completely all Argentium, and I will show you also attaching it to the 999 and the 960. So let's get started. So I'll just set that aside. Now I don't turn my hot plate on. What I do first is I just work straight from here. So let me just zoom down for you. Okay, I'll just move that aside, and I'll put that in focus for you and slide this all over. Alright, I've just got my water there, and all I need to do is just dampen my paintbrush and wipe the excess off. I'm just making sure there's no lint on my paintbrush. And all I'm going to do is really kind of wet the area quite a bit, so there is a pool very, very fine pool, but a pool of water. And we are talking in a very, very small amount. Can use your paintbrush, but dry is better than too wet. I can pick that, I've got a little tiny piece ready to go just there. And then just pop that straight on there. As you can see, look how easy that was to attach. Let me lift that. I haven't pushed it quite down yet, but you can see the foil. Now if your paintbrush is slightly damp, if you muck it up and you got this little ball, don't worry about it. You just push it into place. And if a piece tears off, you can use your knife to tap it down. Just got to make sure, the one thing that you do got to make sure is you don't have little air bubbles under it. If it tears, it doesn't really matter. This will all join into one piece. So if it tears and you've got to refill, or you know, I've got a tiny bit that's left on my paintbrush, what I will do is, let me bring that camera down even further for you. I'm just trying to keep you in enough view so you can see. And so now I've got this little bit of gold foil that's on my knife, sorry, on my paintbrush, and I'm just going to push that and take it off. Again, it really doesn't matter. It is extremely forgiving, actually. Alright, so all I'm doing is attaching the gold, and moving it about right now is not the best time. The time you actually start to kind of move about it and then go over the areas, you would heat it and then come back. So let me attach now the other side, and I'll just double check I've got enough water, because I don't really want it to. Then I'm just going to lift this up. Let me make sure you can still see. And I'm just going to cut a little section there. How simple that is. And then attach that just there. I'm just going to move that around. Now that one, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not that happy with that. But as you can see, because I've got liquid behind it, I can literally move it to where I want it to go. And I'll go and get another piece, and I'll fill up. I'll just make sure again I've got enough water just down in this area. And it just kind of sucks it in, which is brilliant. And then you can see how that gold there, and I'm just pushing, using the paintbrush to push that down. And then we'll come back and burnish that completely down. And again, if you've missed out on a spot, you can either fill it right now, heat it, let it cool, and then re-add. I find it easy if I let it cool and then come back and then add it. And but I'll actually fill up a little bit more, so I'm just going to wet again the spots where I can see that there's nothing. And there's a little spot just here where there's nothing just there. Cut off a little piece. So try and get you, make sure, try and keep my knife slightly dry. I just really need just a tiny corner torn off there. It's probably a bit too much. But it just sucks it in, which is fantastic. Try not to use your finger to push it down, because otherwise it will stick to your finger and won't stick back to your piece. So, right, so, and I'm just going to attach another little bit there. But what I will do before I pop this down, I'm going to again just double check. Got enough fluid underneath that. There we go. Now this is a little budgie garn that we have in Australia here, that I hand sculpted, and I'm just gently, ever so gently, just moving that gold just to all the little tiny areas I want it. But the more you fiddle with it, the more you could have some problems with lifting, but you know, I think that's about all the fun of it. Isn't that just absolutely stunning? Love it. I'm so pleased with that. That is a knockout. So all I'm going to do now is bring over my hot plate. Take back the camera a bit because this is going to be too close for you now. Right. And I'm just going to turn on this. I actually turned it up to 2. It gets quite hot quickly. This is a bit raised off because I've got a bail that's on the back of it. And all I'm doing is just literally heating that up. It will take just a few minutes. Now, before I might use the ball tool, because I do have a lot of fine detail within that, and I really want it to bring it to the, you know, the surface of this, creating these little wing feathering bits. So I want to still be able to see that, and the only way to do, I found that, is just to use the finer, which is the ball tool. So I'm just kind of waiting for this to switch off. It'll switch itself off in a second. And once it reaches its temperature. And I can see the water actually starting to evaporate underneath that. So there's movement within the gold, I can see right now, and it's starting to pull itself onto the metal. Argentium is just such a beautiful clay to work with. I'm enjoying every bit of that. Right, so what I'm going to do is just kind of pull this a bit closer, and just going to grab my tool here because it's very, very hot, obviously. And all I'm just going to do is push this gold down. So it's a very, very fine burnish. Just doing it gentle at first. I'll go to the other side. At the moment, it needs a little bit more heat on it. So I'll let that, because again, all I've done is just literally made sure that this is all sitting flat. It's going to take a bit. These were easier, these ones down here, because they were flatter and closer to the actual element. This is sitting quite high, so it's going to take quite a bit to get that temperature. You can use the kiln, and I know there are other methods on the market, but I had this, so just a second-hand hot plate, and it definitely does the job. Might be a little bit slower. Kiln is a little bit easier, and but these are, because you can do it in a few minutes, but this takes a little bit longer because the temperature needs to hold a bit to get that gold down. Alright, so that's switched off. So let me do that again. I'll grab my agate. Just got to watch your agate doesn't get too hot. So we're just going to continue doing until it's such times it's finished. So I'll take that up and show you. And as you can see, got a nice little process there. So again, take it off. I set it aside on this area here, which is quite cooled. And I'll leave that there, cool it down a little bit, put it back on my bench, attach any other parts of gold to it that I feel that the area was a little bit too thin, or I created a little hole in moving it with the paintbrush, and then pop it on the heat, reheat it again, and then just go over the process. The aim, as I said, is you're burnishing it down. So once it hits a good temperature, burnishing it down. But the trick is, have your little paintbrush, your water, and as I said, I use a little scalpel knife, and but these little ball tools are great to get into those really tight little fine areas, and yeah, have fun. So this is the Argentium, and I will show you how to do very soon the 960 and the 999. Back here with you to show you, this is the 960 and this is the 999. So I will then start to attach the gold on those. So I'm going to wet down first. I have my, as I said, these are the tools I like. You choose the tools that you find is the easiest. As I said, I'm not a professional at this. I just enjoy adding a bit of gold, and I want to add some gold just on these beautiful little rosettes. I think those will be gorgeous with that touch of gold, right kind of smack in the center of this design. And then I've got the little gum nuts. I'm going to paint them. I'm going to add the foil to. So But I'll start with the 960, and I'm just going to fold that back, and I'm just going to cut a little bit off. And the moisture from the water, well, actually it sucks it into itself. And I'll just put a little bit more water on those. Now, as you can see, I haven't got the whole lot covered, so I'll come back and I'll add some more to it, because I've got there's a lot of valleys in this little piece. Well, you know what a rose, it's got a lot of deep sections, so what it's doing is kind of pulling itself. It will probably need a couple of times to go around that one. Just pushing that down. And again, having a damp paintbrush is fantastic. And I'll just again make sure that I've got enough moisture on the other little ones. Tear that off. And with the moisture just on that point, on those areas, it'll just pull it straight down. And as you can see, it just pulls it in. Just makes it so easy. Just using the knife just to tap that down. I'll go back to the paintbrush. Now again, I'll have some little vacant areas once I'm finished that, because it will sink inside of it into those little valley areas. I'm just going to touch just down on the edges here. I can see some of the petals where the gold has not touched. Just remove that. And you really do, you know, use so little for such an amazing effect. I could put a little bit more just on there. I might just dampen that area just to make sure that the water hasn't run off. There we go. And with a bit of heat behind that, that'll actually pull that all in. So I will set that one aside, and I'm going to wet down little gum nuts there. It's a little bit already on my paintbrush, which is okay. Tear off a reasonable size bit on that. There we go. There's really nothing to be scared about doing this. It's actually quite enjoyable. I actually really enjoy this. And that piece didn't go on really well. It's because I didn't have enough moisture on it. For the next piece, I can see a nice little pool of water there now, so using the paper to hold it down. Right, so they're on the heat. I'm just waiting for the pieces to get nice and warm. It's just turned off. What I can do now is just pull this over and just burnish into these areas. Again, you've got to watch that your burnisher doesn't get too hot. I'm just going to set that aside and use the finer tip one. I want that to and I'll go through this process again, and I think you've kind of got the idea. I'll take a snapshot at the end and show you when they're completely finished. So I hope you enjoyed this process, and you enjoy this, adding a little touch of gold to your designs. Thanks for joining me.